Hey folks, Malforian here and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be taking a quick look at the Dev Diary 89, which is the patch notes for Fleur de Lis, which is the 1.5 expansion update. So it's not going to be a very long video. As always, if you enjoy the video or if you enjoy the previous content on the channel, I would appreciate if you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. It helps me more than you probably know to get the channel out to more and more people. So yeah, we're just going to take a quick look and then we'll be done for the day. So yeah, we're not going to go over the expansion features because that is literally just the expansion, all the content on there. So I'm not going to go through that. It's all things that if you've watched some of the videos Paradox have done, or just read up about the expansion, you'll find out all about that. And the same with the free features. So the free features is what everyone gets. Obviously, the expansion features, if you buy the expansion, you get these things. If you if you don't, everyone else who has the game gets these anyway, which, to be honest, is quite a lot of stuff. You get the cultural overhaul, you get languages, you get the artifacts, you get the coat of arms designer, you get the duel event updates, you get more men-at-arms. So there's quite a lot of stuff. Even if you don't buy the expansion, there's quite a lot of things. So if you're short of cash at the moment, you can play some of the features and then pick up the expansion in the future, and you've still got some extra cool content to be playing in the meantime. And then yeah, we're going to take a quick look through the rest. I've highlighted some of the ones that I thought kind of stood out as changes that I thought were kind of important to know or were kind of interesting, but there's probably other things in there as well that you want to keep an eye on if you're playing through. So the first one there is added an interaction that can be taken to claim one of your liege's high-tier titles if you own 51% of the de jure territory. So I think this means, I'm not sure, but I'm guessing this is if like you're say you're in the HRE and you're like the Duke of Austria, and then you own enough to be able to theoretically claim like the kingdom that is part of. I don't know if it is the Kingdom of Austria off the top of my head actually, but whatever kingdom title is above that, if your liege owns that title, it sounds like maybe you get a claim or something like that to be able to take that without having to use other look for a claim and things like that. So it'd be kind of interesting to see how that works out, to be honest, in the game. Claimant faction, the AI is less likely to support a claimant they hate just because they dislike their liege, which would be good. There's a lot of claimant faction changes here, so I'm thinking this will reduce some of that spam you get of just constant claimant faction spawning for a while. The AI is also less likely to push claims of non-adults, even less. So no more like, hey, you're a good 40-year-old warrior, but I want this 4-year-old to be on the throne. Looks like that'll be going away a little bit. It will still happen, but it looks like a little bit less than usual. A sad one here, well, a good one, a good one actually, I suppose. Executing random peasants no longer deducts 100 piety, but the more reasonable 25 piety. So I think this just stops you just randomly killing peasants to get dread, which I think is a change later on as well. I think you get less dread from killing random people, so I think they're trying to nerf that, just always being a high dread. Although reducing the piety kind of means you can kill 4 times as many, so it'd be kind of interesting to see how those interact. It is now somewhat stressful for certain characters to execute or torture their children. Which I think you can only do if you go down a certain lifestyle tree, isn't it? I can't remember now. I don't think you can execute or torture your own child unless you're sadistic, is it? I'm not sure. Someone in the comments let me know, but I'm pretty sure you have to have a certain trait or something to even be able to do it. But it looks like it'll actually make it stressful. I think before it wasn't that stressful, so it's kind of weird. But we'll see. See what changes. Made the Mongols pay less for their army maintenance for a while after appearing. So I think this will stop the Mongols. Sometimes the Mongols spawn, they die off really quick, and I think that's where their army's so big it bankrupts them, and they just fall apart at that point. So again, it'll be interesting to see how the Mongols do this. Will they be better? Will they be worse? We'll see when we get a few playthroughs. Made the offer vassalization interaction depend on cultural acceptance. Now this is interesting because offer vassalization was pretty good, especially if you went down the stewardship tree that gave you plus 25 modifier. Now it depends on cultural acceptance. It'd be interesting to see how much that modifier is. I wonder if you'll see it in game. Well, like I say, I'm streaming it later today, so we'll take a look. But it'd be kind of interesting to see how much that's changed. Rebalance dread from here we go. Yeah, rebalance dread from executions. You should no longer get massive amounts of dread from killing random peasants. So no more just getting 50 dread by just pressing 2 buttons. Looks like they've nerfed that play style quite a bit. And relatives of landed characters give less dread than when executed. Again, so it looks like really you really only get a lot of dread from killing titled characters by the looks of it. Slightly reduced dread gain from executing characters unless you're executing Emperor or your Head of Fate. Oh, there we go. They've even reduced it. So they've really nerfed dread from killing people, which is kind of good because it was kind of overpowered. You could just go raiding, kill everyone, and then you were at 50 dread and no one ever rebelled against you, or very rarely did. The offer vassalization interaction will now gain extra acceptance if you know the language of the target. Oh, so this kind of interacts with this one, kind of negates this kind of negative with a positive, and it kind of makes more sense, I guess. You know, if somebody spoke your language, probably more likely to vassalize to you rather than just like, hey, you've got a good modifier, but you're French and I'm German or something. So again, we'll see how big that is. When the papacy is dismantled, the Pope now loses all her cash, not his. It's a woman Pope. I guess that's a typo there in the patch notes. This will be good. Dismantling the papacy will actually be better now, because before, I think when you dismantled it, they just moved the papacy somewhere else, and he had all his money. And if it's later on in the game, he can have like 10,000 gold or something stupid. So again, that kind of makes the dismantle the papacy even better as a decision. You can now grant land or vassals to your Head of Faith if they're independent. This one was super interesting. Now I wonder if this means, you know, if you're Catholic and maybe if you win the Crusade and you take like Jerusalem, can you just give that title to the Pope? So then the papacy will be in Rome and Jerusalem. That's how it reads. It'd be really interesting if that is the case. It'd be kind of cool kind of roleplay where you go on crusades and then give it to the Pope, or even if you're like, oh, I just want to keep, I don't know, Brittany for myself, but I'm going to go, you know, attack other places and then give it to the Pope, but I'm just going to keep the land I want. You know, play like a really pious playthrough. Super interesting. I might try that on a Let's Play or something, because that'd be pretty cool. Just like keep your kingdom or your empire, and then everything else you give to the Pope, and you're like super holy. But yeah, it'd be kind of interesting to see again how that works out. You can now grant land or vassals to your Head of Faith if they're in... Oh, that's what I just read. So good, I read it twice. You will no longer get dread from executing prisoners that have spent so much time in your prison, everyone's probably forgotten them by now. Again, just nerfing dread, so you can't just stockpile people in prison and then kill them, I guess, when your dread decays. You know, you can't just load up a fresh batch. Train commanders now increases knight effectiveness and men-at-arms damage and toughness over time from 0 up to at a rate of 1% per month. Moreover, odds for positive outcomes have been increased, now being equal to 50% of martial skill instead of 33. This really buffs train commanders, which is one I never really did before, so I guess why I can see why they buffed it, but increases knight effectiveness and men-at-arms damage by 1% per month. I'm guessing it's capped, because that is ludicrous. Ludicrous. Like, you could buff your knight effectiveness, I don't know. I guess if it's from 0% to the martial skill of the marshal at a rate of... Oh, so if you have a level 20 marshal, you get a 20% buff to knight effectiveness. That's really good. Really good. Yeah, I might try this out. See what difference it makes, but that looks really good. I mean, I guess it's the the other one saves you money. This is going to cost you money. Well, not save you money, but also buffs your things. So I guess if you've got a lot of money, it's kind of a good one to do. Realms with no land or sea connections now have penalties when accepting vassalization. Again, they're kind of nerfing off of vassalization again. This one's really good because sometimes you get weird stuff where you could be in France and then, you know, like English dukes were offering vassalization if you had enough modifiers. So I actually quite like this change. It's going to stop crazy blobbing out. Halved prestige gain from romance schemes, as they were the only way to gain the largest standard chunk of 1,500 in the title, and made it harder for tribals to romance non-tribal. So again, just a bit of a nerf to romance schemes. Prestige and piety gains from battles against peasants have been divided by 4. This just stops you farming rebellions for prestige and piety, which is kind of sad because it was a nice way. It was actually a really nice way to farm piety if you were trying to rush to get some extra stuff. And then we're on to the AI, just a couple of little changes. Again, there's probably more stuff here that's, a good change, but I've just highlighted the odd one or two that initially stood out to me. The AI will now switch away from titular titles as its primary if it has a non-titular title of the same tier. So I think this means it'll always switch to like if they're in Germany or something, it'll always change the primary title to Germania or whatever, rather than I think before it used to keep weird titles as the top level title. So I think that's what it means anyway. Someone can shout out in the comments down below if I'm wrong. When declaring wars, only count an ally's strength if ally is at peace. This is the AI declaring wars, so this should prevent, if you're at war, I don't know, if you're Italy and you're at war with, I don't know, I'm trying to think somewhere now, the HRE, an ally of yours won't count your troops in his chance to go to war. So I think this will stop you being in a war and then just your allies constantly declaring wars and trying to bring you into them, because they'll look at you and say like, oh, he's actually at war, so he's probably not going to bring his armies. Kind of like you do. What I do if I'm declaring war, if I've got a lot of allies, I'll quickly look at my ally list and be like, okay, they're all at war. I'll wait until they're at peace and then I'll declare war, so they'll definitely come and help me. So it looks like the AI is going to do that as well now, which is really, really good. It should stop some spamming of of wars, because sometimes you can have like 10 wars going on. None of them you want to be in. We'll focus more on CBs that target a title of a higher tier than its current primary title. I think this will aid. I think this will be really good for like Central Europe and Eastern Europe. It looks like it'll mean they'll focus more on getting, if they're a duke, they'll aim to get kingdom titles, and they won't just constantly go around getting like county titles and smaller stuff. Again, I think it's trying to get the AI to act a bit more like a player. Because, once you can get those duke and kingdom titles, you no longer mess around with county titles and stuff. So it looks like they're trying to train the AI to do the same thing. AI will no longer send poems as often. I mean, that's just a funny one, to be honest. That's just a funny one. Get less spam of poems. Interface, these are just all fixes to an interface and making the interface work better. There's nothing really super gameplay orientated in there. And again, art, some just nice art. I mean, the game's got amazing art, so even more art is better. Localization and game content. So I think this is roughly the last one, because then we get on to mods, and I don't know anything about mods and how to do them, so we'll leave that for smarter people than me. Added events to rename East and West Francia to Germany and France respectively, should they pass from the hands of the Carling dynasty. So another reason to get rid of the Carlings. It looks like when they die and a non-Carling takes the throne, they get an event saying, hey, do you want to just be called France? Or hey, do you want to just be called Germany? So interesting to see if the AI does that or whether it just keeps them. So interesting. Change the Outrimer name list. Now this is really good, because I think this always bugged and gave the same name, always like 3 names, and your children were just basically all called the same name. So just adds a few more children. I think that's what it means anyway. Name list. I think it means if you Outrimer your where it gives you a child name. I'm presuming that's what it means. Hunt activity now generate artifacts for characters with the royal courts. So this is. Hunting was pretty good. Now it looks like you'd be able to just randomly get artifacts. I'm guessing they're not very good artifacts, but, nice little bonus to hunts, which is quite good because they're quite expensive hunts to do, especially if you haven't got much money, so a nice little extra bonus. And then, yeah, like I say, mod stuff. I don't know anything about mods. Databases, I think we're nearly at the end. What we at? 13 minutes? Well, this video went a little longer than I planned. Database added the Gond culture to the game. It exists in Central Eastern India. All these basically that I've highlighted, and there's a bunch more further down. It looks like they've done another pass on India and changed a little bit how it's set up, added some more flavour to it, added some different duchies and stuff like that. So yeah, updated history for both start dates in India, adding more properly playable vassal rulers as well as their spouses, and updated the dynasty trees. So I only highlight these top ones, but a lot of these changes are around India. So yeah, kind of interesting, which would be good. I do kind of think one of the content packs in the future will be based in India, because it's a lot of the game map and there's not a lot of flavour there, so we'll see. And then just a bunch of bug fixes. I'm gonna be honest, I haven't read through all the bug fixes because there's so many of them, but I imagine there's a lot of good ones in there. Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff here that's definitely needed to be fixed, that has been fixed from what I've seen. you'll no longer be raided by your vassals for slaves. I mean, that's just a good thing. That's just a good thing, because they should have been doing that anyway. So anyway, guys, that is going to be it for today. Like I say, just a quick look, just some of the more interesting patch notes they spotted. Obviously, it's not really a main dev diary, just really showing off the updates. So yeah, like I said at the beginning, if you've enjoyed it, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. I play Crusader Kings and other strategy games here with videos every week and stuff like that. So yeah, that's going to be it for today.